and W253DF Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations.
It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Genesis of Olive Branch. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Happy holidays. Nice to have you with us on this day after Christmas. The sporting world just starting to get back. It's funny how it used to be nothing ever happened on Christmas. Then the NBA decided to, start doing some stuff with it. And then the next thing you know, we got the NFL, because it worked out perfectly for them near the weekend. They play all those games. It wasn't like old Christmas where all you could do was open up presents, sit around and talk to each other, right? Now you're glued to the TV for an NFL game or an NBA game. So a little different, but it was fun. No doubt about that. It was very hairy for my Memphis Tigers. They escaped with a win. So they get past Vandy. They are now number 19 in the AP poll. This is the most amazing thing, and because of the holiday, Mike DeCourcy will not be with us today. He'll be on with us on Thursday. We will chat with Jeff Moore about the NFL, and then a nice visit from an old friend, TJ Reeves, sort of a mid-season basketball visit and chat with him, talk about the NFL, because his Bucks are now very much in the middle of a race for the playoffs. In fact, if they win, they set their own destiny. So we'll talk with TJ Reeves last segment of the program. But the Tigers were so fortunate they're 19. But do you know what Mike DeCourcy has them at today? Zach Boyd? It's like a Christmas gift.
What did he have them at?
He does, the Fox Sports bracketology. He's got them as a 2-seed. A 2-seed. But you know what? I think the Tigers were penalized a little bit again by the closeness of the Vandy game. And look, Vandy should have won the game. Vandy outplayed Memphis. When the Tigers shoot 32% for the half, they didn't really turn the ball over. They weren't so good on the boards. They should have dominated a little bit more. You got the beginning of what we'll see from Naquan Tomlin. I think he's very, very rusty. It was really cool. His very first appearance, he gets the ball, he passes to the corner, they give it back to him on the right arc, and he drains a three. That was kind of neat. And in 15 minutes, he had 8 points, 5 rebounds, something like that. It wasn't terrible, but he was so fatigued, so gassed, he couldn't really play down the stretch. So his minutes were definitely limited. But now you got 15 more games with teams that are unranked. And honestly, you're going to lose a game. Look, here's a great example of what you got going on in college basketball today. First off, while Memphis is playing and escaping from Vanderbilt, FAU is beating Arizona in double overtime. So they actually moved up. I think they're 7 in the new poll. So think about this. In the top 20 are 2 AAC teams. This is without Cincinnati, without Houston, and without UCF. So it was pretty good that you did bring in FAU, because you've got, at least at the moment, a basketball partner as long as this group is around. We'll see if Dusty May can keep on bringing big names, big guys to Boca with their little tiny gym and everything else. But this crew is pretty special. I mean, they're good. They are really good. Don't think they're not. It wasn't just a lucky run against really good teams. Don't forget, they beat Tennessee. They beat good teams along the way, including Memphis. Now, they shouldn't have beat Memphis last year. We know that. If Memphis got the timeout, game's over. That was unfortunate. But they're good. And Arizona found that out. Look, but they lost to Bryant earlier this year. How about this? How about Northwestern? Northwestern beat Purdue in the same gym that over the weekend the Wildcats lost to Chicago State, a team that they had played 40 times now. They've beaten them by 39. The average margin of victory was like ungodly. In the 30s, I think. Crazy. No close games until this one. And Northwestern loses that game. You just don't know. That's the kind of thing it is. And fortunately for Memphis, against a 293 net team, 293, you know how bad that would have been? Heck, that would have dropped them out of the top 25 again. They would have said, hello, 23, goodbye. Instead, they win the game, and they're a 2 seed in the DeCourcy bracketology. That's the way it's going to be. I do think Memphis is going to lose 2 or 3 of the conference games. You know what? Look at Tulane. Tulane, you got to make your own energy. There's nobody in the gym. You know, half the time Memphis has more people than Tulane does. But they got this kid Cross. Do you see what he did? Kevin Cross? He became the second guy in history to have 2 consecutive triple-doubles with 20 points. That's the first. It's only the second time since stats became an official statistic. And that really wasn't until 83. I didn't realize that. I thought it was longer than that. Because I've been thinking about assists since I started watching college basketball in the 60s. But apparently 83 was when they started to really have the official stat with assists that you could get double-doubles or triple-doubles. Kevin Cross did that, and, you know, Tulane is now like 8-3. They're not chopped liver. So that'll be kind of fun. They could lose to Tulane. I'm going to tell you something else. They could lose to East Carolina in Greenville. They play that a little bit later in the year. I've watched East Carolina blow games to Florida and South Carolina. They should have won, could have won. They just didn't figure out how to finish. So at home, you could lose that game in a conference game. You really could. You know, they're going to lose 2 or 3. How badly will that hurt them along the way? They'll start with Tulsa. I believe Tulsa's 8-4. Of course, that's not for a bit. They're going to play Austin Peay on Saturday. That'll be the final of the conference games. I'm sure there'll be double-digit favorites, huge favorites in that game. Maybe they start to get their little mojo back here. And if they do, and I expect they will, they'll be 11-2 in the non-conference. That was a lot of fun to watch. The Memphis Grizzlies are in New Orleans again, and in the Ja era, they are 3-0. When I say Ja era, since he came back from his suspension, they have not lost a game. We said to make the playoffs, they got to go 13 games over 500. They are now 3 games over 500, looking at 4 today. Again, I'll go back to, I think the guy's a transcendent player. Transcendent players make other players better. There was a piece, I can't remember who wrote it, that was asking coaches that now have played against Memphis when Ja has been on the floor about how you have to guard them and how much different it is when Ja is playing. That one of the coaches was quoted as saying you almost have to play perfect to stop the Memphis offense when Ja is on the floor. Ja absolutely raises the abilities of other players because he gets so much attention on him. That Bain, who had 30 the other night, and I believe in every game since he's back, all 3 players have had at least 20 points, right? Something like that.
Yes.
They're big 3. So if that continues, and I think it will, because the other 2 guys are pretty good. And if the attention is on Ja because he can get in the paint so well, that's the other aspect. Look at points in the paint now. With Ja in, they win the points in the paint in every game. They were never winning those points in the paint with Adams and Ja both not around. It's amazing. One guy can lift with the tide all the other ships, and he's doing it. We'll see if they can go 4-0. That would be an unbelievable start. And then people who were doubters, and I truly just did not know, can you go 13 games over 500 in the last 52 and hopefully that's enough to make the play-in? Can you do it? And now you start 4-0 and you still got a long way to go. A lot of basketball games, and he's got to play in almost every one of them, and he can't get hurt. But if that's the case, let's see how it goes today. But you'd have to say with the 3-0 start, okay, you've got a chance. You really do. And then the Tigers are getting ready for what will be the 65th AutoZone Liberty Bowl. Now, I was not here in the 60s when that game moved from Philadelphia through Atlantic City. It started in Philly. 1 year was played in Atlantic City because that was one of the first indoor games ever. Because Bud Dudley, the former Villanova AD who started this game in his beloved Philly, knew he could not draw enough people in the frigid climes of December in Philadelphia. So he opted to move the game. He did it the 1 year in Atlantic City, and I don't think that was a major roaring success. So he decided he was going to look at places in the South. There's a great story in the commercial appeal, whether you get it on paper or digitally. Stooks does a history a little bit of the bowl, and it's a worthwhile read. The characters that were part of that bowl, Tim Treadwell, Bud Dudley, of course, who had the office of the bowl in his house for the first 25 years. I think it paid off his mortgage. It's just delightful to take that walk down memory lane. Tim Treadwell, Bill McElroy was a big part of all the festivities. I mean, they used to have even more festivities than they do now. They don't even have that luncheon anymore because the teams don't want to be a part of the luncheon. Every year you would get a little cocktail glass that had every one of their bowl games with the scores. It was like a little thing of history. My wife hated them because I had so many, and she wanted me to get rid of them. But they were fantastic, and the luncheons would go on forever. I think when Steve Earhart came in, he trimmed it down to about an hour and a half. But with Bud Dudley, you used to get 2.5 hour luncheons. It was crazy. Everybody would speak on the dais, and then the coaches. You had a player rep who came up. I liked it, but it was long. But they've done away with that because the teams don't want to give away that time. They thought it was a waste of time. So they don't have that anymore. But it's a great read. And I think it's incredible. It took forever for the Tigers to get in that bowl game. There were other moments they were so close to getting into that bowl game, and they did not. And it took the SEC not having enough teams 7 years ago, and a terrific Tiger team that, by the way, that was a successful bowl because it drew 57,000 apparently legit. So I don't know that you're going to get that this time. I think ticket sales, and we'll talk with Steve Earhart tomorrow. I think ticket sales are a little slower. You'll still get a good crowd. You'll get 45 to 50. It is amazing. It was when in just sort of going back down memory lane, and Phil Stukenberg pointed this out in that article. The worst matchups that Memphis saw, the city of Memphis, in the it was not then the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, just the Liberty Bowl, was when Bud decided, because of the patriotic theme, and he was a real true patriot. Now, he was from Philly. He was a Notre Dame guy, so he finally got Notre Dame in that BC game, Boston College game with Doug Flutie. But he decided this experiment, he was going to give the winner of the Commander's Cup, that's the series between Army, Navy, and Air Force. Whoever won that would get entree into the game. And usually at that point, they were playing an SEC team. And honestly, I know many of the members of the media poo-pooed it. The first time it was cool, Air Force won it, but Air Force won every single time, 4 years of this experiment. And so I think 1 year you had a Big Ten school. I think Air Force played Ohio State in one of those years with Art Schlichter, if I recall correctly. But for the most part, the media poo-pooed the game because it was going to be usually the military academy, which was the Air Force every time, a big, huge underdog to a big school. Don't forget, this is the seventh oldest bowl. So it did not go well with the media, but it went well with the fans because the the Air Force people, military people, they bring folks. Each one of those games, I think, was in the 60,000s. That was pretty impressive. I had forgotten that. It drew incredibly well, but that's because the military showed up. And there have been a great number of local season tickets, I think to the tune of 25,000 in the heyday, where people just absolutely latched onto the bowl. Because don't forget, Memphis was never going to a bowl. There was this drought of 20-something years. So people latched on to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl as their big college game. And that was cool. There was about 25,000. I don't know where they are now. We'll ask Steve Earhart that tomorrow. But I'm looking forward to it. I think the game with Iowa State's going to be good. Iowa State has had some trouble scoring, although they've got a freshman running back who's come on late in the year and a freshman quarterback who I believe was the freshman of the year in the Big 12. But an offense that hadn't scored a lot against Memphis's defense, which has been very generous to a lot of teams, but an offense that scores a lot of points too. You're missing 2 starting offensive linemen. How will all that work out? You don't have your DC. Well, Charles Clark, I think he's going to call the plays. He's the assistant head coach. He's been around for a bit with Ryan. I believe he makes the defensive signal calls here. We'll see how all that works, but I'm looking forward to being involved in, I think it's history, 65th game of this particular bowl, 7th oldest, and now we should point out, to be honest, I think the first 6 were not played in Memphis, so this would be the 59th game in the city of Memphis in that very stadium, which will have a new look starting, we hope, when this one is over. This was pretty cool. Did you see what Shohei Ohtani did?
He did a couple of things over the weekend.
The one that
but the one I think you're talking about has to deal with a new car.
Yes. So it's Joe Kelly, right? That's
correct.
A Dodger. Joe Kelly's wife is a pretty neat lady, right? So she has become somewhat of a social media influencer, I believe. She understands social media and how to use it. So she, in her efforts to try to get Shohei to come, knew that his number was 17. That's her husband's number. So she took on a campaign, Ohtani, kind of a take on Ohtani, but it was O-Take17. Hashtag O-Take17. And she did several videos saying, come, we're giving you the number. And she actually had one video, had all the stuff laid out, and she was saying, we can change this a little bit. I'll put silver here. I'll cover this up. It was really clever, really good stuff. And so Ohtani comes, he gets the number, and you can see the video on Twitter or on X of she's peeking out of her garage as a car is being delivered, and these strangers are walking up her driveway, and she's like, should I go approach these people? What are they doing coming up here? And the guy goes, the car's yours. Shohei Ohtani wanted you to have this car. And she goes, no way, or something to that effect. It's incredible. What else did he do, Zach?
I know he took out the new Dodger out to dinner, and they caught them on camera.
Yamamoto?
Yeah, Yamamoto.
Wow. Yeah, the Dodgers, they got Glasgow, right? They got Yamamoto. This team,
yeah,
they're going to be really good. If there's any chemistry, they are really definitely going to be good. And then we have all the NFL games that we'll talk about. Jeff Moore is right around the corner. So glad to have you with us on the day after Christmas. This particular show sponsored by Genesis of Olive Branch. Genesis of Olive Branch sits right at the corner inside the building of Homer Skelton Hyundai at Craft Road, which is the first exit in Mississippi off Highway 78. You know that's Lamar. They've done a lot of work there. I mean, you'll zoom right there. You turn left, and you go see a guy named Vinny. Vinny Gerard, the crazy Canadian who loves to talk hockey, and he loves to talk luxury cars. He really loves to talk about Genesis. And right now, he'll talk to you about the Genesis SUVs, the GV70, the GV80, with financing, with a good price. All you got to do is ask Vinny. Go see him right there at Craft Road and Highway 78, Genesis of Olive Branch. And we're sitting in the Family Leisure Studio, so the Christmas sale has to be over, right? The after Christmas sale doesn't. They're going to entice you, and I'll find out later this week exactly what they got going on, but I promise you there will be hot tubs, pools, saunas, massage chairs, probably pool tables, shuffleboards, and saunas, all involved. All these things will be there for you to enjoy at a really good price. All you got to do is get to I-40 and Whidden Road, see our friends at Family Leisure, where family fun and sales always come together. Jeff Moore in studio in just a minute.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Are you wearing a hat that says meat?
Yep, it's the final piece of my collection.
Your collection of meat hats?
My collection of Central Barbecue merchandise.
Oh, okay, I've noticed you have a few Central Barbecue t-shirts.
A few. I've got a lot of Central Barbecue t-shirts. In fact, I have them all.
How many are there?
Well, let's see. There's 11 of the basic t-shirts.
11?
And like all other cool Central Barbecue merch, they're available at eatcbq.com.
Did you just use the word merch in conversation?
Not just any merch. CBQ merch. Hats, t-shirts, cups, even kids and baby clothes for when the little me comes along. That kid's going to love Central Barbecue because they have such great
merch.
Ribs.
Did you know some ordinary cold medicines can raise your blood pressure? That's alarming. Fortunately, there's Vicks NyQuil High Blood Pressure. It's specially formulated without alcohol, sugar, or decongestants to provide fast, powerful nighttime colds and flu symptoms relief for people with high blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, try NyQuil High Blood Pressure. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, fever, sore throat, colds, and flu for people with high blood pressure medicine. Use as directed and keep out of reach of children.
How would you do gift giving this holiday if it was completely up to you? Maybe you plan a family getaway instead of the typical gathering. Replace gifts with time together. Or go all out because gifts are your thing. But there's something we forget to consider. How we give to ourselves. No matter what your family does, find a way to give a special gift to the most important person in your life. You. Treat yourself to a day of rest. Go easier on yourself during tough moments. And maybe even gift yourself a therapy subscription, so you're guaranteed to make time for yourself every week. BetterHelp offers flexible, affordable therapy online. And getting started is simple. Fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and connect by chat, phone, or video. Plus, you can switch therapists anytime for no charge. Be number one on your gift list with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/rightchoice today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/right choice.
A good friend of mine told me about this awesome place for lunch.
Oh, yeah? What's the name?
Neil's Grill and Bar, where the fat man rocks. Everybody knows Neil.
Where's it located?
It's located in Yorkshire Square off Quince.
And what's it like?
The best lunch place in Memphis. You know, like real mashed potatoes and gravy. Everything is made from scratch. Monday through Friday, daily lunch specials like Monday baked chicken, Italian Tuesday, spaghetti, ravioli, Italian spinach, delicious fried catfish, fried chicken livers every Wednesday, Friday, Salisbury steak, barbecue chicken, or if you just want a vegetable plate, the best veggies in town.
What about the lunch price?
Meat and 2 veggies, $8.95. Meat and 3 veggies, $10.95. And veggie plate, $9.95. Big fat boy portions, man.
Man, you're making me hungry.
Come hear the best live local music at Neil's. Eddie Smith plays Sundays 5 to 9, Mondays karaoke, Tuesdays Debbie Jameson, Wednesdays Elmo and the Shades, Thursdays John Williams and the A440 Band at Neil's.
Where the fat man rocks.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Genesis of Olive Branch. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
dancing the night away at the gala on Thursday. Then we've got New Year's Eve coming. Can't wait for all of that good stuff. Happy holidays, one and all. We talk the National Football League in a second with our friend Jeff Moore. He's brought to you by the Eflin Insurance Team. You know, they do their business a little bit differently. They collaborate. They get to know your family and what your needs are, what your budget is, and then they find the perfect protection for you, whether it's your house, your car, life insurance. They'll figure it out and get the perfect thing. Same thing if you got a small to mid-sized business. Matt's going to sit down with you. He'll learn about your product, your employees, of course, what your budget is. He might even forecast you down the road a little bit and then pick out the perfect commercial insurance. All you got to do is call 901-386-4777. That spells out GUR because they're big Tiger fans. 901-386-GUR. Get protected the collaborative way with the Eflin Insurance Team. Well, yesterday, really the whole weekend, much like the whole year, Jeff Moore, the NFL is full of surprises. This was some crazy stuff. Two quarterbacks that I have come to believe in. Brock Purdy, who's having the most efficient season of anybody in years, and Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback of this era, post Tom Brady. They both stunk. It was the worst performance by Patrick Mahomes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They lose to Vegas, which is now suddenly kind of in the playoff race. And then San Francisco playing against Baltimore. Preview of maybe the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy throws 4 picks. Yeah. Totally confused. Looked awful. Baltimore looks pretty good. They look like the best team in the NFL. Agree or disagree?
I agree with Baltimore looking like the best team in the league because I was frankly surprised that they were so physical with the 49ers and really just manhandled them all night and caused a lot of confusion for Brock Purdy. They were in his face. Their corners really played well against the 49er receivers. And Lamar Jackson was unbelievable. I mean, what I'm loving about him is he's using his athleticism to still look for receivers down the field. That is dangerous. That is unstoppable.
The two best guys at that so far this year for sure is a guy that I didn't think could do it, and that is Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
In their loss, I'm going to put that loss on the defense that didn't stop Miami in the end. They drove down because I thought they did enough to win the game.
Yeah.
But every time it looked like they were going to get Prescott, he escaped. Same thing with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
The Niners were putting the heat on him. They just could not contain him.
He has done an incredible job in terms of the way that he's operating in the pocket. He can stand in the pocket and throw it if he needs to. He'll scramble and get some room to throw it down the field. But I love that even when he's scrambling, he's looking downfield and his receivers are getting open. And then they have a really potent running game. So in the AFC, definitely the best team in the AFC. I think if they were to play San Francisco again, I'm not sure that the outcome would be the same. Because I really think this 49ers team is really good. They had a bad night.
They did that in San Francisco. I'll just remind you. But you're right. I do think this. I think each year, I say this all the time, people think I'm nuts, but I agree with every sport. Football, you're going to have one stinker. Basketball, you're going to have 2 or 3 stinkers
Right.
where Memphis might have done that with Vandy the other night. But I think that was the stinker game for San Francisco. I think it was the stinker game for Kansas City, although Kansas City hasn't looked that good here.
They have not.
In the last few weeks. Why don't we ever give Lamar Jackson as much credit as we should? He's a great college football player.
Yeah.
And, he came on. He's done a heck of a job there. But when we're talking about elite guys, we never really mention him that often. I don't know why.
This is the first year, I think, in a while that he's really been healthy the whole season. And his passing has improved. His passing has not been on the level that it's been this year. It looks like something he's really worked on. His receivers are playing much better. But he's an unbelievable talent when he's playing well. And early in the season, they weren't playing well. Their first 3 or 4 games, they didn't look that impressive, but they look like they figured it out now.
What's wrong with Patrick Mahomes and with the Kansas City Chiefs? This was another game at home where you let a very mediocre Vegas team.
Yeah.
Now, since they made the change at coach, that's pretty amazing what he has done. I got to give him all kinds of credit.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a great football team, and I do think Kansas City is. I heard somebody saying, I don't buy this because I think Andy Reid is really a good football coach.
Yeah.
They're going, you know what? They haven't looked as good offensively. Eric Bieniemy is gone. Is that part of the problem? What do you think is going on with Kansas City? Because they have not looked that good.
I think they need to fire a receiver coach. Their receivers are dropping passes, lining up off sides, causing the team critical penalties in critical situations. And, they'd have at least 2 more wins if their darn receivers would hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
I think that's their problem. And so as a result of that, Patrick Mahomes is frustrated. Travis Kelce is frustrated because he's dropping passes.
Well, that was a bad look for him. Throwing his helmet that way?
Yeah,
I didn't understand that one.
Frustration. I mean, they're losing games that they should be winning. That's always hard for a team.
I'll tell you what, not many coaches in pro sports these days, players are the stars, right? Not many coaches could get away with what Andy Reid did. Did you see him go and basically tell Kelce what a baby he was for doing that? The camera caught it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, I love it too because that's the kind of coach that Andy Reid has the reputation for being, and that's why players love him. He's just honest. I mean, he's just straight up. He doesn't sugarcoat anything, and guys who respect that, do what they're supposed to do their job, and they've had some success doing that. They're frustrated, and their receiver core is just horrible.
Jalen Hurts did something yesterday nobody else has ever done in NFL history. It's with the famous play, the tush push. He scored his 15th rushing touchdown, the most any quarterback in the NFL has ever had in one single season. The Eagles had that great run in the beginning. Then they had that rough patch. They looked okay yesterday. I'm not going to say they looked overwhelming. I mean, I don't know who's the better team in the NFC East, Dallas or Philly, because at one point we thought Philly for sure.
I'm not sure what's going on with Philly. They've been winning ugly all year long. They just have not been dominant. They seem like they barely win the games that they win, and even against teams that we expect them to beat. I do believe that when the playoffs roll around, if they're healthy, it's going to be tough to beat them because they do have that playoff experience. And Jalen Hurts, man, you can just, their short yardage game is unstoppable. So, I'd like to see him get the ball out to A.J. Brown more. But, I think they're going to be okay. They're struggling a little bit in the regular season, but I expect them to take it up a notch.
It is interesting how, they've made this quarterback sneak thing where you get pushed from behind, the tush push.
Yeah.
They've made it famous. I don't think everybody can run it. I think what you got to have there is a center who is incredibly strong, like the other Kelce brother is. And also, I don't think people realize how strong Jalen Hurts is. I don't think every quarterback in the NFL can do what that tandem is doing.
You can't. And this guy squats like over 400 pounds. He's an unusual physical specimen that happens to be playing quarterback. And I agree with you. I think they've tried it. Other teams have tried it and unsuccessfully. That's something they should take advantage of, but they've got to throw the ball down the field more because they've got great talent out there and they need to get the ball to them. It'll take pressure off their running game, and I think they'll be okay once they do that.
In a year of crazy quarterback stories like the kid at the Giants, of course, he got benched.
Yeah.
Dobbs, Minnesota. Yeah. He got benched. These things are not long shelf lives. Here's a guy who's had a long shelf life though, Joe Flacco.
Okay.
What Cleveland is doing, they're back in the race here. They're 9-5. They're in the playoffs if they start today, and I think they're going to make it. They beat Houston. Of course, Houston's lost their quarterback, but Flacco threw for 368 yards and 3 touchdowns yesterday. Amari Cooper set the team record for the Cleveland Browns.
Unbelievable.
With 265 receiving yards and a touchdown. What the heck is going on there with Joe Flacco? I mean, he's, 38 years old or something?
This is a team that nobody wants to face in the playoffs because their defense is very good. And if Flacco's throwing the ball around the yard the way he's doing, I mean, they're going to be tough to beat. I mean, because they run the ball respectively, but that defense puts all kind of pressure on the quarterback. And, you know, Joe has always been good at throwing the deep ball. So, yeah, I mean, they're a team that's going to be fascinating to watch. You know, the Steelers look like, you know, they were able to get up and play a good game this past weekend. They could very easily get in there. So you could have 3 teams from the AFC North easily in the playoffs. So I love the new format where you can get more than 2 teams from any division. It's going to be interesting. And Cincinnati's not a wash. I mean, you got to be ready to play when you play them.
I know. It's just a shame Jake Browning can't. I mean, Joe Burrow cannot stay healthy. Now you're stuck with Browning, but he's doing a fair job. There's no doubt about that.
He is.
Another great reclamation story: quarterback Baker Mayfield. Tampa is now over 500, and their destiny is in their control. They play New Orleans this weekend, and the Bears play Atlanta this weekend.
Yeah.
What do you think about Baker Mayfield? And their sideline guy, TJ Reed, is going to join us. So I've been finding out what kind of a guy he really is because he's had ups and downs since his Heisman year.
Yeah.
Do you think they win the next 2 to win the division?
I do. I'm loving the way Baker is playing. He's protecting the football. He's throwing the ball down the field with accuracy, playing with a lot of confidence, and it's just great to see. I've always liked him as a quarterback, and he's, unfortunately at Cleveland, they had to move on from him. In Carolina, he didn't have any talent around him at Carolina, but he's got Mike Evans. Mike Evans, a Hall of Famer. Yeah. He's got some good talent around him, and they've got a respectable defense. I love what he's doing down there, and I think they'll continue it.
All right. Since we've mentioned crazy stories in Tampa, the Bears can be a spoiler here because they play Atlanta, then they end up the year at Green Bay. If they win both those games, they'll knock Green Bay out and they'll knock Atlanta out. Yeah. So they can be a big spoiler. My question for you is this. The Bears actually have won, I think, 3 of the last 4. Could have been 4 in a row if they had just not played to lose 2 weeks ago. Against Cleveland. They had Cleveland on the ropes. Is Justin Fields a keeper, or would you draft with that Charlotte first pick any of the guys? Caleb Williams most will say is going to go first. I'm not 100% sold on him.
Yeah.
But what would you do if you were the Bears GM?
I would keep Justin. I like him as a quarterback. I think when you get some talent around him, he's demonstrated with DJ Moore that he can get the ball down the field. He can throw the deep out. He's a good quarterback. I think you just got to protect him. You need to build a respectable running game to complement his talents and get him some wide receivers. And I think he could be I think he's a starting quarterback in the league. Just get him some help.
I think the first thing you do with that pick would be Marvin Harrison. Get an elite
game breaker,
receiver. You've already got some pretty good people in place, a good tight end, Kmet that can catch the ball, and a couple other decent receivers. I think that'd be the first thing. And then, I don't know, you could go later in the draft and there's enough quarterbacks in there that are interesting, or get another offensive lineman up close. And I think because the defense has gotten better.
They are.
You're making some strides there. In Detroit, that's a great story. They win. You realize that ends the drought. They have not won a divisional title since 1993.
That's a long time.
That's 30 years ago. They've never been to the Super Bowl. They're one of 2 NFC teams that have never been to the Super Bowl. I forget who the other one is. Yeah. But how good are they?
It's a great story. I think the test will be this weekend. They play the Cowboys.
Yeah. And
the Cowboys are reeling. They lose a game they should have won against Miami. it's going to be a huge game, and I think a good test for Detroit. I like them. I like this Detroit. I like the grit that they play with. Goff has to continue to protect the football. He's unfortunately had a lot of turnovers the last 3 games. He played well this past game, but that'll be the test. If they can beat Dallas, they're going to be formidable in the playoffs. I think it'll be a good confidence builder for this team if they can pull it off.
I think that Detroit-Dallas game may be the best game. The second one might be Miami at Baltimore. That's going to be an outstanding game.
That's going to be huge. Miami is just playing with a lot of confidence right now. I mean, they throw the ball all over the field. Tua stayed healthy, so he's been great. And their defense is very respectable. It's going to be, and they run the ball well too.
Happy New Year, my friend. We'll talk to you next year. Actually, it'll be a week from today. That'll be January 2nd. We'll be in 2024. My goodness, where does time go?
Awesome.
It is crazy. Thank you. We appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Can't wait to see you next year. That is Jeff Moore. He's brought to you in part by Southern Security. That's your home team credit union. They've been around for 70 years, just doing great things. If you want the best when it comes to unbeatable rates, low fees, the best of service, and all of the new technology, and they're building a new building in Collierville, but it would be chock full of that. You've got to check out the folks at Southern Security. If you're a business owner, they're for you. If you're in need of an auto loan, they're perfect for you. Need better benefits with your credit card? At Southern Security, they can handle all your business banking needs with better benefits on your card and a whole lot more. To find out how to become part of that Southern family, you can go to the website. It's southernsecurity.org, but they urge you to call. Talk to a team member. They want to really get to know you. 901-452-7900. They'll explain the benefits of Southern Security, your home team credit union. Big supporters of the Tigers, by the way. We take a break. When we come back to Tampa, we haven't been there in a long time, and we'll talk with our friend TJ Reeves. He's next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Welcome to the Rendezvous.
This is John Vergas. When my dad started the Rendezvous in 1948, I don't think anyone could have imagined we'd still be serving shoulder, cheese plates, and our world-famous dry rub ribs 75 years later. But we are still here in the basement, in an alley in downtown Memphis. We sincerely thank you for making the Rendezvous what it is today. Charlie Vergas Rendezvous. Be sure to schedule your delivery for the next game at hogsfly.com or come visit us in the alley.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. There are a lot of great dads out there. Sometimes those dads get divorced. For more than 30 years, we've represented men in divorce, confronting the pitfalls that could devastate your finances or harm your family relationships. While every situation is different, our goal is to get the best outcome for you and your kids. Visit CordellCordell.com to take the first step.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Memphis attorneys. 5100 Poplar Avenue, Suite 2932, Memphis, Tennessee, 38137.
Paid for by Cordell & Cordell.
You ready to end the year with some money in your pocket? We got it covered at Gossett Mitsubishi's Mitsubishi Motors year-end sales event. Get to the Pike for the award-winning 2023 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. 420 total range MPGE, $299 a month. Get ready for your road trip in the 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport. Buy for $27,000 or for just $399 a month. And cool has never been cooler than in a 2024 Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. We got it at $30,700 or $499 a month. And no worries with Mitsubishi's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. So get to Gossett Mitsubishi today at 1870 Covington Pike. Gift wrapping available. You want it, we got it. Shop online anytime at MemphisMitsubishi.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
PHEV PZ06203 MSRP 44,355 Sport RU 001136 MSRP 28,000 Eclipse RZO 12051 MSRP 31,700 includes all rebates and incentives PF 695 excludes tax title and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through end of the month. Dealer stock only.
The sound that flows into my mind. The echoes of the daylight.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Presented by Genesis of Olive Branch. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Well, I'm going to play a little Santa here real quick. Zach, you weren't prepared for this, but I just got these. I got so many tickets to give away to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, thanks to the Mid-South Lions and their Chief Executive Officer, Brad Baker. So I'm going to do one right now. To the third caller, while we're talking to TJ Reeves, we're going down to Tampa. We haven't done that in a long time, in a minute. I got 2 game tickets, section 121, row 38, really good. 2 pregame buffet tickets, and a premium parking pass for the game on Friday to the third caller at 901-360-8255. 901-360-8255. We'll give away 2 more tomorrow, which is basically the same place, and then 3 we'll do the next day. So we'll be giving away tickets. Third caller, we've got that third caller already, so don't try calling anymore. But we will be giving away more tomorrow and then the next day as well. In the meantime, this is a trip we have not taken in a long time. It's so good to go to Tampa and talk with our good friend TJ Reeves.
Am I the third caller? Am I the third? I want to go. I want to go to see the Tigers and Rocco Beck and the Iowa State Cyclones. I'm not caller 3, apparently.
No, you're not.
Just coming to me for other reasons.
No, you're not.
Okay, I'm just double checking.
No, I'm sorry.
I went to the Liberty Bowl, as I told you real quick.
If you come, though, I promise I can get you a press pass.
I understand. I went to the Liberty Bowl, as I've told you on previous occasions, numerous times in my childhood when we would come back to Memphis to visit relatives, including sitting in the pouring rain for the Joe Paterno Penn State Tulane one. I was there for a couple of other crazy ones, including, I think, Purdue won a last-second game in the early 80s. So I go way back with the Liberty Bowl, Wolo. Way back.
I know, and if you're not careful, Bill Rhodes will kill you if you don't say AutoZone Liberty Bowl.
The AutoZone Liberty Bowl has Tampa's Rocco Beck, the son of Anthony Beck, former Buccaneer tight end, former ESPN broadcaster, now an XFL head coach, and Rocco can play, and that is going to be a blast. But I hope he doesn't play too well because I hope the alma mater gets it done.
There you go.
With Wolo on the call.
There you go. We're big underdogs in that game, but crazy things can happen like this story. And there's a bunch of crazy NFL quarterback stories this year. I mean, crazy. But here's Baker Mayfield. You know, guy that was a pretty good college player who has been a failure as a pro, and all of a sudden he has lifted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to over 500, and the odds-on favorite will have their own fates in their own hands. The odds-on favorite to win what has been a weird, challenging year in the NFC South, that's for sure. But what kind of a guy is Baker Mayfield?
That is a great question, and obviously we were all wondering because he was discarded by Carolina just a few games in, and he asked for his release and got it. And remember, he won a couple of games late in the year for the Rams, but they elected not to re-sign him, and I think it humbled him. And he has been fantastic to deal with, to answer your question, even in losses, and that is true character. I mean, immediately after games, he's willing to talk to me after losses, and we even had an equipment problem at one point trying to get the interview, and he stood there with me and said, whatever you need, I'll do it. And he didn't have to do that, again, after a defeat. So I have nothing but good things to say to him, and this team is responding right now with Baker Mayfield throwing the ball well to Chris Godwin and to Mike Evans. I'm just saying, Uncle Wolo, this is a dangerous team right now late in the year. They're going to likely win one or both of the remaining 2 games. Saints at home this week and then at awful Carolina. If they beat the Saints this week, they very likely could win the South without even having to play
That's true.
players against Carolina or win the game.
Well, you would knock out New Orleans if you did that, and then my Bears could knock out for you
the Falcons.
the Atlanta
That's correct.
Falcons.
A little late holiday gift there. And if that happens, then you're at home in an instant replay sequel deja vu playing the Dallas Cowboys again in the wild card game as they ended the career of Tom Brady last year in the wild card game in Tampa. Could be a repeat if that happens. But Mayfield has energized this situation. And after what we saw last night with what Baltimore did to the 49ers on the Christmas night game, I mean, the NFC looks wide open right now.
Oh, it does.
Get in the tournament.
Well, and Jalen Hurts and Philly don't look like world beaters, and Dallas loses to Miami. Boy, Lamar Jackson looks good.
The Cowboys have yet to beat a good team on the road. They haven't won one game on the road against a good team.
No, you're right. But they don't lose at home.
But they're not going to be playing at home more than likely. I mean, the Eagles only have to win one of the last two games with Arizona and the Giants, and that kicks the Cowboys to the wild card. So they're playing most likely in Tampa, and here we go. We shall see.
The reason our friend TJ Reeves is not on this program on a regular basis at the moment is because during college basketball season, he works for an organization that at our time slot has a daily show.
That's correct.
But it involves gambling, and since there are no games, he could come on today.
That's exactly right.
But you do a lot of work with college basketball, so let's go there for a minute. Have you watched your alma mater much? You realize they're 19 in the AP poll, but do you realize Mike DeCourcy, our good buddy, who is usually on today, he will be on Thursday, and explain why he's got Memphis as a 2 seed. Would you put the Tigers that high?
I don't know that they would deserve to be that high, but I mean, you start looking at quality wins away from home, which the committee will, and I realize we're biased. I'm an alum. I want them to win. You do the games, so we're biased. But how many games away from home do you have to see where you beat Michigan and Arkansas? Michigan's probably not an NCAA tournament team at the moment, but they could be. Arkansas probably is. You beat both of them on a neutral floor. You win at BCU. Maybe they're going to be an NCAA tournament team, maybe not, but you beat them. True road game. You then go and beat Texas A&M. True road game. You follow that up with Clemson and Virginia wins, albeit at home. I mean, that is some real credibility now.
You
for the
got
Tigers.
7 quad 1 and 2 wins, okay? You're only going to have 2 more chances at that, I think, with FAU. Home
with FAU,
home.
right.
But that is pretty amazing. 6 Power 5 wins already. That's
and that is a metric in which they're going to look at very closely for what's the difference between being, for example, a 4 seed or a 3 seed. If it comes down to it, how many quad 1 wins? What's your strength of schedule? What are your quality wins away from home? And the Tigers definitely have those. All I know is I did not get with you for the Christmas weekend Saturday special against Vanderbilt, where Memphis. What was that against a bad Vanderbilt team? Little sleepy situation just before Christmas.
Well,
missing some free throws at the end. Are they trying to give us all a heart attack on that game?
Yeah,
Wolo?
I think so. Well, they've unfortunately had a few games this year where they've really shot free throws well early, and then it's either fatigue or nerves or a combination of both, where they have not put teams away when they could have at the free throw line. So that seems to be, even though I think they're shooting like 73% as a team now, that's worrisome. That's worrisome. So this was your typical trap game. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Half the team was leaving as soon as the game was over to go elsewhere for the holidays. They had run this emotional gauntlet where they'd beaten 3 ranked teams in a row. They were sitting on their laurels thinking they were invincible, and they didn't shoot well. In the first half, they shot 32%. Like, they didn't turn the ball over. Only 9 turnovers for the whole game. But they just didn't have that intensity.
Shots. Bandy was making shots, which also helped them.
In his defense, he's not had a healthy team the whole year, and he was still missing. Now he's lost a post player that was a starter for most of the year to an Achilles tear. So that kid's out for the rest of the year. But some of the pieces they put in, I think he's starting to find. Some of them have gotten healthy. He's got in his point guard, his star, Mannion, is a good player. They got a shooter that got hot. I I think they're going to get. I don't think he's a bad coach. That's the crazy thing. Somebody that I guess it's a USA Today writer, or it's either that or he's a Gannett writer. He was writing that, honestly, and the guy's covered basketball a lot, that Jerry Stackhouse is really a pretty good coach, but he's not a great college coach because he doesn't know how to put a team together. But if he was in the NBA, where teams are put together for you and you don't have to recruit, he'd be a heck of a coach.
Well, and that's where
I think that's fair.
That's where he'd been as an assistant as well, and we'll see how long it lasts at Vanderbilt. Did I see correctly, and you were probably talking about on the broadcast, they've never lost 8 games in the pre-conference before, ever, at Vanderbilt, before the SEC plays begun. I believe that's correct.
I think that is right. Yeah.
So
crazy
struggles for them, and just in closing, because we talk about the college hoops every day on the Bet US show, handicapping show. This is wide open, just like the NFL right now. Whether it's UConn, Purdue, Arizona, pick one at the top, Duke, whomever. Tigers probably in the mix with some of these other schools, Kentucky, Kansas, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it appears that you easily could make an argument for 10, 12 or more teams to make a run in March and be a national champion.
I think that's spot on.
And maybe that's a good thing.
Well, I don't think there's 3 undefeated still left, right? Ole Miss, with their best win being Memphis. Houston.
And how good are they? Give me the 10-second take. How good are they? You saw them.
I think they're a well-coached team. I don't think they're as good as Memphis. I think if Memphis played them on a neutral or at home, they'd beat them by double digits. I think Memphis played a terrible game in that game.
And Beard is a volatile coach, obviously.
Oh,
and that can have an effect.
He's outstanding.
Well, he's good, but he's volatile, and that can have an effect in key games down the stretch on him being able to keep it together. We'll see.
Maybe he's learned his lesson. We'll see. Houston and James Madison. You know, that's a program that Mike Oresco should have looked at, because when he was expanding, you know, their football team was incredible. Their basketball team's undefeated. Hey, that's a pretty good program.
Well, the
Nobody
JMU
recognizes.
got the upset early in the year with Michigan State, Michigan State, but they have not really played a quality, strong schedule. Because, again, they're kind of a mid-major program.
But they haven't lost a game, T.J. Reeves. They have not lost. You got to recognize that.
And by the way, Florida Atlantic a year ago demonstrated that just because they had not played the strongest schedule doesn't mean when they're winning all the games they can't do damage in March.
Believe me,
they did.
That is a really, really good team. Look at that double overtime game with Arizona. I think you and I will agree on this. Last thing, because we got to go. But it's so good talking to you.
Yep.
We'll never see an undefeated team again. Like the last one was in '76, Bobby Knight's Indiana
Kentucky
team.
got close. Kentucky got into the Final Four undefeated in 2015.
That
I was
true.
there. But they didn't even get to the championship game. The last team to get to the championship game is Larry Bird in Indiana State. The last team to get all the way there is Indiana 76.
Right. And I will
Never
say this,
a long time,
2008
Never
Tigers
is a long
team,
time.
2008 Tigers team, man, they were a tip-in from Robert Dozier against Tennessee away from getting to the Final Four undefeated, and they were up 9 with 2:12 to go. I mean, that could have been a perfect 40-0, but it didn't happen. That's why it's so darn tough.
But never is a long time, my friend. I tell you that all the time. Never is a very long time.
I never thought I'd see a 1 beat a 16 beat a 1, and I've seen it
Yet
twice.
It's happened twice.
Yeah, that's right. Man, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you. We'll talk
Same
again
to
on a
you.
regular basis as
Have
soon
a
as
blast
college
on the
basketball
Liberty
is over.
Bowl call.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see what the Bucks continue to do, and I pledge I will get back with you in the new year as soon as I can or when we can. It was great to talk to you one more time in 2023, my friend.
You got it. Thank you. That's our friend T.J. Reeves. By the way, congratulations, Dan Applegate. He was the winner of the tickets, the parking pass, the buffet to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. We'll be giving out 2 more tomorrow and 3 the next day, thanks to the Mid-South Lions organization. So that will be a lot of fun. This final portion of the show has been brought to you by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. If you're looking for land because you want to build that dream home, he's got it. If you don't know how to utilize the land that you might have, maybe it's been a part of your family, you want to make sure you build the right palace, he knows how to do it. He's got that wisdom of 2 generations and 70 years of building palaces throughout the Memphis area. Or maybe you want a renovation. You just want to modernize your home. You want the California closets and the media room and the island in the kitchen. Well, he can do that incredibly well. I call it renovation with innovation. Just call Ken, 751-1632. Go to the website, kengarland.com. You'll see what I'm talking about. He's fun to talk to, and he sees the little details and the big picture all at once. 751-1632. Build it the right way with the best guy around, Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Johnny Radio, he comes your way in a minute again. Happy holidays, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning.